What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode because this is a conversation that I feel like is not happening enough in the health space, that no one wants to have, or maybe that no one has really even experienced themselves before. But I talk to so many women who are struggling to find this gray area and this middle ground between one end of the spectrum where you have this extreme discipline, you're rigidly tracking all of your food, you're hyper controlling with your nutrition, you are chasing leanness through restriction. And then on the other side, you're trying to heal by listening to your body and food freedom and no rules. Well, you're really just feeling super out of control and stuck in like complete chaos with your health and your body. I've seen and talked to so many women who have swung from one end of the extreme to the other, myself included. I spent years stuck in eating disorder patterns. I was a bodybuilder. I had all this pressure on me to stay lean for my business as a health coach until eventually it completely backfired in 2022, 2023. My hormones were complete chaos. My digestion was shot. And because of that, my relationship with food and my body really started to struggle, where I started gaining weight rapidly, feeling inflamed, so uncomfortable in my own skin, yet simultaneously being told that this is just part of the healing process, which left me feeling very dismissed and defeated and lost of what to do next. Like, what does healthy even mean or look like now? When you're told that this chaos is healing, when your clothes don't fit and your body feels like a stranger and your health is feeling worse, you really start to doubt yourself. Deep down, you're feeling really stuck because you want to lose the weight. You want to get leaner. You want structure with your nutrition and your workouts and your habits and routines. You want to feel strong and lean and confident again. You just don't want to destroy your hormones or relationship with food again. So what now? This is what we're talking about today. We're talking about how to find this gray area, the place where discipline doesn't mean restriction, where healing is not a bunch of chaos. There's actually structure and a system behind what you're doing. And I want to start off this conversation with just helping you understand why the pendulum swings so hard, because you are not alone. Again, I talk to hundreds of women who are exactly in your shoes. And the reason the pendulum swings from one extreme to the other, if you spend years under eating, overtraining, skipping meals, relying on caffeine, pushing through exhaustion, your body didn't just get burned out. It adapted hormonally and physiologically. So when that structure is taken away, you go to this other end of the extreme because your body, your physiologically, your hormones, your nervous system, all the things that we're about to talk about here are driving this lack of control that you're experiencing, because truthfully, you've kind of lost control with your health and your body. Your brain learns through these years of restriction that energy is not reliable. Specifically, the part of your brain that controls this is your hypothalamus. We can consider this your brain and your body's energy regulator. It is what controls that energy in versus energy out equation, for lack of a better word. So when energy in is chronically low, it recognizes that, and so it's going to turn down the dial on energy out. And it's also going to respond when food and energy then becomes available. It's going to give you that increased drive to eat, that increased drive to crave calorie-dense foods, things high in carbs and fats. It's going to reduce signals of fullness so that you're making sure that you're eating enough to overcompensate for the chronic restriction. And it's going to give this increased anxiety around food access, where you're always thinking about food. What's my next meal going to be? When am I going to have access to eat again? This isn't emotional eating. This is a survival mode response of your brain. So I want you to stop seeing this pendulum swing as a personal failure or something you have to remain victim to. We just need to fix all these internal adaptations that are going on for you. Okay, so number one is how your brain has shifted, how your hypothalamus has learned that energy is not reliable. And so when energy does become available, as you kind of start listening to your body and giving yourself more food freedom and letting go of the structure that you've had with your nutrition because it was so extreme for so long, it goes to the other end of the spectrum and it overcorrects and you lose control. Also, your hunger hormones become completely dysregulated. So there's two different hunger hormones. We have our leptin and our ghrelin. Leptin is your body's satiety hormone, and the satiety hormone, it drops with weight loss and with chronic restriction. So signals to the brain that you are full are really low. This is why you can't stop eating once you start. I see this on labs all the time. I actually can see the number that your leptin is low. I've had this on my labs too, where I had chronically low leptin, and this is just telling me that the brain believes it's in a famine or starvation, even when food does return. Then we also have your ghrelin, which is your body's hunger hormone. This becomes more sensitive and more reactive in seasons of restriction, and it spikes harder and faster when meals are delayed. So you're having those very intense, impulsive cravings to eat. So we have a brain that is dysregulated. We have our hunger hormones that are all out of balance. We have cortisol that trains the body to store energy, not release it. So Cortisol's job pretty much is to break down muscle tissue for energy and to promote fat storage, specifically in your abdominal region where your vital organs for survival need those calories and that energy. So when your calories increase, as you're starting to eat a little bit more and break free from restriction and extremes, your body says, store it first, because we don't know how long this energy availability is going to last. So when restriction stops, hunger comes back, not normally, it comes back amplified, and your body's also primed for fat storage, not to efficiently burn body fat. And that also we see not just with your cortisol, but also with your thyroid. Thyroid output downshifts when your body's in this like starvation or conservation mode. There's a few different physiological changes that are happening here, but T4 doesn't convert to T3. It reverts to reverse T3, which basically blocks your metabolic capacity. And also your cells become a lot less sensitive to thyroid hormone, which is all just turning the nozzle down on your metabolism. You're slowing down your metabolism, your digestion, fat oxidation, calorie output, energy expenditure. So as your intake is increasing again, your metabolism doesn't just instantly rebound, especially if you don't do it in a structured process like a reverse diet. What happens is storage rebounds because your system is still responding or operating in this conservation mode. And last but not least is your nervous system, the thing that controls it all. The nervous system really does lose its regulation capabilities or its brake pedal. Years of overtraining, high stimulation, pressure to perform, be a perfectionist, high stress, overtraining, undereating, poor sleep. This keeps your nervous system stuck in what's called sympathetic dominance. It's stuck in the sympathetic nervous system state, aka fight or flight mode, and it's not spending enough time in the rest, digest, parasympathetic mode. When your nervous system is dominant sympathetically, that is what slows down your thyroid, that is what throws all these other hormones out of balance, keeps your cortisol elevated where you're just cortisol driven. That's what's literally giving you energy to function. And so when structure disappears, your nervous system doesn't just relax. It honestly becomes even more chaotic. Your impulsivity is going to increase. Your ability to regulate your emotions drops. And this is why you feel out of control with food. You feel emotionally reactive. You feel unable to self-regulate yourself. It isn't a mindset issue. You didn't lose your discipline. You didn't lose your drive. You didn't lose that piece of your identity. Your nervous system is just dysregulated. And we need to learn how to regulate it to bring these pieces of your identity back online in a healthy way, not in back to the extremes. So in summary, with all of this is pretty much your body overcorrects after years of restriction in order to restore safety internally. When restriction ends, the body tries to find balance, but it completely overshoots because what it really wants is energy security. It wants to do that by storing body fat, and it wants predictability in that energy to keep you alive, to function optimally. And so that is often what leads to the rapid weight gain, the increase in appetite, the low tolerance for stress, the slower digestion, the increased inflammation, because on a biological standpoint, it's much safer for your body to have some extra energy than it is for it to not have enough. And so overcorrection is really just your body's way of protection. It is not a personal failure. It's not something you need to remain victim to. It's not something that's unique to you. And there is a strategy for us to find this gray area and middle ground. The path forward really is about restoring trust through consistency for your body. It's about giving your brain, your nervous system, your hormones, predictability with your nutrition and your training and your habits and your routines. Not perfection, not extremes. And I'm going to teach you how I walk clients through this process because there are some really important steps that you need to take here. Step number one is rebuilding safety in your nervous system and your metabolism. You're never going to be able to feel in control of your body and your relationship with food again if you're continuing to restrict, be underfueled, underfed, and dysregulated. So step one, if your body is feeling inflamed and reactive and exhausted and chaotic right now, we're not chasing fat loss. And I'm sure that goes without saying, but we're not chasing fat loss. Step one is making sure you're eating at maintenance, eating enough, eating consistently to stabilize your blood sugar and these hormones, regulating your training, so balancing your workouts and your training with adequate recovery, and regulating your nervous system through different habits and routines outside of just nutrition and exercise. This is stabilizing your internal systems so that we can rebuild predictability within your body and feel in control of how your body is responding again. Step two is to just create more structure within each of these different things. So structure with your nutrition, structure with your training, structure with your lifestyle and your habits. And structure is not about tightening the rules. It's not about becoming more obsessive or perfectionistic with things. It's about reducing uncertainty for your nervous system and your brain, because uncertainty is what creates stress internally. And after years of this stress and restriction and the pendulum swing, your brain and your nervous system has experienced a ton of uncertainty, and it's become very hyper vigilant to your environment, to your habits, your routines, your nutrition. It's constantly scanning for, when am I going to eat next? Am I eating enough? Do I have enough energy availability? Am I doing too much? Am I safe enough to relax? It's even very overly critical about everything that's changing within your body. And so structure is what gets rid of this constant second guessing and stressing and overthinking so unnecessarily. It doesn't mean that your diet needs to become perfect again, or that you need to start micromanaging every bite that you take, or white knuckling your hunger and feeling guilty for days that you miss at the gym. That is completely defeats the point of this. If structure creates anxiety or stress or guilt or urgency for you, it is being used as a form of control, not as a form of regulation, and those are very different things. So here's what healthy structure looks like. Step one, with your nutrition, this is the most important foundation. Regulating structure with your nutrition looks like eating adequate calories for your body stress load, which we already talked about in step one, eating at regular times throughout the day, eating balanced meals with carbs, fats, and proteins, and choosing meals that actually satisfy you, not because they're the lowest calorie or whatever. And even just incorporating loose tracking will be really helpful for you. Most of my clients do track their macros or nutrition to a certain degree because this brings tons of self-awareness. It allows you to recognize patterns of overeating and undereating. And you're not doing this from a place of judgment or perfectionism or obsessive control. You're doing this from a place of structure, consistency, awareness, and it really just helps you answer this constant question that so many women are asking, especially if you've experienced this pendulum swing of, am I eating enough? Is your eating consistent from a day to day? Or are you the undereater Monday through Thursday, overeater Friday through Sunday? It helps you answer all these questions by just seeing the data and therefore being able to make tweaks and changes to your habits, not from a place of guessing, restriction, or uncertainty, but from a place of clear empowerment of, hey, I'm choosing to make this change with my diet or my nutrition because I know it's what's more aligned with the current goals that I have. When you track correctly, it reduces anxiety because it removes the guesswork and the second guessing. I also find that my clients really do benefit a lot from just repeating your meals. It can seem boring, but repeating your meals really does have so many benefits in regards to stabilizing your blood sugar to reduce energy or reduce craving and increase your energy. It reduces decision fatigue around your meals. It lowers the dopamine chasing for food, which we'll talk about here in a second. It builds trust with yourself and your hunger cues. This doesn't mean eating the same things forever, but let's just sit down and make a list of like, what are your go-to breakfasts? What are your easy lunches? What are your familiar anchor dinners that you can turn to in a pinch? Your brain really does relax when it knows what's coming in. That is what we are doing here. We're relaxing and regulating your brain so that you can feel, you can actually have control again. And then once we build out self-trust, then you can start getting creative with your meals. So that's the first place to instill structure within your routine. Place number 2 is within your training. A regulated training structure looks like having a clear plan for your workouts when you go in there, having a set number of training days, intentional intensity with that training and not just overdoing it or, doing HIIT workouts every single workout. And most importantly, built-in recoveries. This removes the second guessing of, should I be working out more? Am I not working out enough? Am I falling behind? Or working out from a place of like overcompensation or workouts that are guilt-driven. That is not what this journey should be about. So having a structure with what your workouts need to look like to support your hormones and also support your body composition goals is key. And then number 3 is the lifestyle structure. This is honestly something I neglected for far too long. I was very hyper-fixated on nutrition and exercise, which a lot of women are too, but there's so many other factors that are going to be key for getting your body to respond predictably. Things like a consistent sleep routine, having downtime on your calendar and your schedule, reducing stimulation windows. So spending the first hour and last hour every day away from your phone and stimulation, building in these daily non-negotiables that support recovery that aren't just about productivity. These simple anchors really do matter. So building your morning routine, building your evening routine, building in simple walks throughout your day, getting your body into a rhythm. I say to all my clients that we really are creatures of habit. We respond from routine, we respond from rhythm, we respond through predictability. That is what gets you out of this like emergency survival mode where everything is urgent, everything is rushing, everything is comes with this like cloud of overwhelm and anxiety. We're getting rid of all of that by having structure, consistency, and predictability for your body. So that is step 2. Step 1 is rebuilding safety. Step 2 is creating structures. Step 3 is really diving more so into your relationship with food here and unpacking that a bit. And being able to differentiate between true hunger and dopamine seeking hunger. After years of stress and restriction and high performance, your brain isn't just craving food. It wants relief. We need to start to honor that and recognize that. Food has just become that really fast, reliable way to get the relief. It lowers your stress. It creates that temporary, feeling of comfort. It shuts off the mental noise. It allows you to feel something other than pressure. But there's a very difference between true physiological hunger and hunger that is driven by dopamine, more so cravings. True physiological hunger is driven by things like blood sugar dips, and an energy demand from your body, hormone signals, normal hormone signals. And it shows up very gradually as like stomach sensation or maybe some fatigue. And after you eat, you have an improved mood and you feel satiated and satisfied by your meals. And it's usually satisfied by well-balanced meals, protein, carbs, and fats, and consistency with your nutrition. That looks very different than dopamine seeking hunger, where it's not necessarily coming from the body, it's more so coming from your brain. It's driven by stress, mental fatigue, overstimulation, emotional suppression, nervous system overload, often showing up as sudden urges, intense cravings, needing to eat quickly, eating past fullness, feeling worse after you've eaten, not better. This isn't hunger. This is your body just craving regulation, craving relief. And food works sometimes temporarily, but it doesn't work in the long haul. And this really does get worse after years of restriction, because after years of restriction, your brain is very sensitive to dopamine. You've removed any pleasure, any variety. You've lived in this like intense control mode that isn't actually control. It's just this fake sense of control that you're getting. And so your brain is becoming very hyper responsive to food cues, less tolerant to discomfort, and more impulsive, especially under stress or when your nervous system is dysregulated. So once that structure disappears, these urges are going to spike. Not because you are out of control or you lack discipline or willpower, but because your brain is craving relief and has learned that food is how it gets that. So just listening to your body is failing you here, because you're listening to a dysregulated body with hormonal imbalances where signals are noisy and urgent and cravings feel confusing. And so again, going back to step 2 here, we need to rebuild a strategy and a structure with your nutrition that isn't just suppressing your cravings or willpowering your way through, but is actually honoring what your body is asking you for right now. It's creating a lifestyle that reduces the need to escape, and then also recognizing when you are feeling uncomfortable emotions. How can you sit with that and still feel safe? This becomes a lot easier when your meals are consistent, when stress is being proactively prioritized, when you have dopamine coming from multiple different sources in your life, you have more hobbies, more pleasure, more presence, and food is no longer that like primary coping tool. And over time, hunger becomes a lot more clear again. Your cravings start to lose their urgency. Eating starts to feel a lot more neutral for you, and your satisfaction with your nutrition starts to return. So there's also this more so relationship with food piece of things that we want to nurture. But ultimately, setting that foundation of safety, consistency, and structure with your nutrition is what's going to help you rebuild this self-trust. And that is number 4. That is what we really need to rebuild here, is rebuild your self-trust, not by white-knuckling yourself with more discipline, and also not by just like letting go of all of things entirely. It is rebuilt by keeping the small, tiny promises to yourself. Eating when you say that you will. Stopping when you're satisfied and you're full. Training without punishment for yourself and your body, adjusting your habits and routines instead of spiraling. This is really how you create a body that is predictable, by giving it predictability and a relationship with food that feels grounded, not fragile, not constantly changing by what you're seeing on TikTok or the internet or what the number on the scale said this morning. And so, in summary, what all of this means for you for fat loss and healing. The truth that I don't think is talked about enough is you can want to lose weight and you can want to heal your metabolism and your hormones Those goals don't necessarily have to be in complete opposition of one another. They just cannot be chased in the same way that you used to chase them. You can be disciplined and also be kind to your body. Discipline does not have to come from a place of punishment or pressure or self-criticism. It can mean consistency and boundary and follow through without fear of gaining weight driving the entire process. You can have structure within your routines and your nutrition and your workouts without that structure meaning restriction. Structure isn't about this obsessive need for control. It's about creating safety inside of your body so that it stops resisting the changes that you want to make. The part that matters the most is you cannot rush rebuilding trust again. If your body has some ears, pushing, being ignored, overriding all of its signals, it's not going to respond to urgency. It's not going to respond to chaos. Even if your intentions are good, it only responds to consistency, predictability, and safety. Those are the 3 words that I want you to walk away from today's episode with. You cannot shame your body back into cooperating with you. Shame does not create fat loss. It creates more stress, more dysregulation, more discomfort, and disconnection from your body. Stress is the very thing that is keeping your metabolism and your hormones and your nervous system in defense mode and creating all of this internal and external chaos with your health journey. Healing and sustainable fat loss, they happen when your body no longer feels like it's in survival mode. When meals are predictable, when training is supportive, not burning you out, and when your stress is truly accounted for in your habits and your routines. This is when the body can become responsive again, where the middle ground between the one end of the extreme and the other is strategic, it is structured, and it is aligned with you, your goals, your body, and your lifestyle. For most women, this is the first approach that actually works. So, if this episode hit home for you, I want you to know that you are not broken. You are just stuck between these 2 extremes that were never designed to work for you and your body in the long term. And so the goal isn't to swing you harder. It is to stabilize you right within the middle. And if you need help with figuring out what this middle looks like for you and your body, that's with your metabolism, stabilizing your hormones, or losing body fat without completely blowing your internal health up again, you know where to find me. Down in the show notes below, over on Instagram, in my DMs. I want to have a conversation with you. I want to support you. I hope that this episode was helpful for you and that you felt seen and heard and that there was something that you were able to take away from it to start to incorporate within your own habits, routines, and life. And I'll talk to you next time.